Okay,
You're good to go.
okay, I went down last week, I was down in the Sioux. It was a meeting called by the Sioux Council. Or the mayor of the Sioux, okay, and they had a number of members from council there. They had members from communities along there, near the Sioux. Les Gamble was there from Massey. They had some people from Domtar, people from the Huron Railway, and the objective of the meeting is to turn around and try to save that railway. They put a presentation on and they were applying for funding back in April, and that was turned down. At the meeting, they said that the federal government said that, and I'll cover that in the presentation. Okay, so this is just a section of the railway. That was the presentation here. There's three major industry groups who rely on the railway, and that is the SR Steel Plant, our plant, and ECOM. The whole rail systems, go on to the next page. The whole rail system is roughly 176 miles. There's 175 track crossings and 68 bridges. So this is just a little bit of information there on that. And they're running around 12 to 13,000 carloads a year. They need around 16,000 carloads a year to have enough revenue to maintain the track and keep it in good shape and have long-term business, okay? So they're looking for some help in the maintenance end of it. I'm just going to quickly skip over the safety facts. You can go on to the next one. The basic thing is they have one of the best safety records in North America as a railroad. So their current track system allows them to travel 25 miles an hour, and it's rated for rail traffic of 263,000 kilograms, or 1,000 pounds, I should say. And without financial support, that railway is going to die. They're asking for $46.2 million, or they need 46.2. They're looking for 50% of that from the federal government, 40% from the provincial government, and they're prepared to kick in $4.6 million. And they're looking for that over 5 years. Hang on.
Oh, sorry.
Let me just make sure I haven't missed something here. Okay, yeah. Their application was rejected in 2019, and if they get this money, they're prepared to commit to running the railway for 10 years. Okay, so they're looking for 5-year spending, okay, but they're committing to a 10-year period for the railway. At the time, Huron Central was told by the federal government the province wasn't prepared to commit their portion of the funds. Now, I don't know how true that is, but that's what they were told, okay? And that this project didn't meet their infrastructure priorities. So it looked like the province is the one who kiboshed it, okay? But
And that would have been the previous government then.
yeah, because this is back in April. Okay, what they need is a sustainable investment. And they need that to improve the service life at the track. They need to provide rehabilitation so that the service can be profitable. They need long-term operations for local businesses. They're looking to have a new mechanical shop in the Sioux. That's about $1 million. And they have to spend $9 million to comply with new grade crossing regulations that have been passed by the federal government. This is come out of rail safety and Lake Megontic issues. So the government's passed regulations, and the regulations are for Class 1 railways, so this is not a Class 1 railway. They have to abide by them too. And they have, what did they say, 175 rail crossings that they're going to have to do some work on. So roughly a quarter of the money they're asking for is because of new regulation. Okay, you can go on to the next one. They're looking at the scope of work. They need to replace railroad ties, change rails, some structural bridge repairs, some ballast work and drainage, and that's probably for keep rail line washouts of the rail line from flooding and stuff like that. Okay, go on. Okay, there we go. Federal crossing regulations they could cost up to $300,000 a unit, but their estimate is $9 million to do the total works. The insurance premiums have increased by 100% in some cases. Under safety management regulations, they're having to add additional full-time staff, and there's some other new requirements, and I'm not going to go too much into that. I'm not too familiar with it. Okay, back in 2010, 2011, the federal and provincial governments provided $33 million to Huron Central to keep it going for a 5-year period. Huron Central provided $11 million. They originally had planned to provide $3 million, but they kicked in $11 million to do more work. And these investments allowed the railway to go from a Class 1 track, which is 10 miles per hour, to a Class 2 track, which is 25 miles per hour. And this funding was to support, just drive home the point, was to provide 5 years of service, and they've been able to get 8 years of service out of that. What they did do is commission an outside group to do a study of what those provided in benefits. Okay, and the third-party study showed that maintaining the operation helped the province to save money. And that means because of less freight on the road. So there was an estimate done on based on the number of trucks and stuff that were on the road, what that impact would be, and the road maintenance costs avoided are about $35 million. The accidental costs are $11.5 million. Environmental costs. So they're estimating that by keeping these trucks off the road over that 5 year, from 2001 2015, a 5-year period, they saved $48 million. So if you extrapolate that and say it's $48 million for 5 years, if we are able to keep the operation going for 10 years, we're talking about $100 million. So when you put that into perspective, and asking for $45 million, and really the government portion of that's about $40 million, it's not all that bad an investment when you stop and think about it. The proposed 10-year commitment would save the province over $100 million in avoidance costs. And this doesn't include any savings related to industrial users. So people are using the rail because it saves transportation costs. So there's money that the company save in addition to that. And there's tax revenue that they would get from that. Okay, so what they've done is to find out some of the direct benefits and strategic benefits they get. One of the things that isn't on that list is, and we discussed that at the meeting, is that with the Ring of Fire project up north. If it ever takes place, that could end up with a smelter in the Sioux and in Sudbury, and that would improve the rail traffic between the Sioux and Sudbury enough that could possibly turn that into a situation where there's enough traffic to self-sustain for the long haul. Environmental benefits, okay. Shipping by truck uses about 1/5 the amount of fuel per ton of product being shipped than by truck. Okay, why help the thing there? Okay, so look, where did that go? Sec. Why help the Huron? You got the customers, you got the railway. No, one of the things that was discussed is that Domtar has 13 pulp and paper mills, and not one of them operates without a railway. And it's very unusual for a pulp mill to operate without rail. And I'll cover that a little bit later, but by far the majority of pulp that's shipped from this operation is shipped by rail. A lot of the bulk chemicals for the pulp operation and the paper operation comes in by rail. Some of these chemicals are like sodium chloride and caustic, are quite dangerous, so it's not a good idea to be shipping those by truck. So that's just another reason why to help there from the chemical standpoint and safety. Okay, so without sufficient funding, the operation, they've announced that it'll shut down by the end of the year. I'll repeat that they need around 15 to 16,000 carloads to make that self-sustaining, so they could run the operation and have enough money to maintain the rails over the long haul. And that's why they're asking for the money. That's the difference between 12,000 and 16,000, okay, to be able to maintain the rail. This could very seriously threaten the viability of the industrial base in there in Espanola. And I've done a quick calculation there, and the provincial loss of revenue, when you come to looking at things like income tax, GST that you collect from people spending money, that's well in excess of hundreds of millions of dollars if you carry that on for a 10-year period. So I'm just going to make that comment there. No one's prepared an economic study, but we're into a pretty tight timeline here, okay? If we had that, we could probably commission something to really reinforce that, but I did a quick calculation, and for the mill, if you take the average salaries and make some assumptions on income tax, and say the money that you have left over, and you spend it, that works out to, between there and Espanola, probably $30 million a year, and that's just a very rough estimate. So you multiply that by 10, we're talking pretty big dollars. And that doesn't include the Sioux, which is probably 2/3 of the traffic on the rail, and the economic impact for them would be pretty significant too, I think.
And the spin-offs from those jobs.
That's right. I'm not even talking the spin-offs. I'm not even talking the spin-offs there. So I think we have a case to make that it makes sense to turn around and support this. And yes, it's government spending, but if they don't spend it, they're going to be worse off. So you can skip on to the next one. And they just use an example here of what it would cost to do a highway, okay, and it was like $800 or $900 million to do a little section of highway about the same distance. comparing that to $46 million to keep a section of rail going, it's nothing really. And if you look at the lost revenue, government revenue lost by not having a railway there, it more than pays for itself. Okay, and that's, I think, all I had as far as that goes. So what they're trying to do is provide Sue has got a meeting with one of the ministries at the AMO conference. We've asked for a delegation to two of the committees. We haven't heard back. The Sioux have asked if we want to join them. I'm going to offer my name in for that, okay? And out of that, we'll see what happens, okay? And maybe I go to two of them there. It'd be nice if we had more than one person from Espanola going down. Last year when I went in for the highway grant, everybody had 5 or 6 or 8 people. We walked in and I'm the only one. So I said, we can't afford to send anybody else. Okay.
Why was it rejected back in April?
They pretty much always do that.
They do, right?
Yeah, they did it the last time as well.
Okay. But how do they keep going after they were rejected?
Because then they'll start putting pieces of paper together like that. And then they're gonna show them the relevance between them.
Well, I think there's more to it than that.
Well, there is.
If the provincial government stayed the same, it may remain the same. But both, the one key thing I forgot to mention is that both the conservative premier leader, okay, and now premier, and the head of the NDP said they would support this project.
Yeah.
So that's a good reason for maybe some optimism in that area.
Go ahead.
Do they have any other clientele, maybe in the near future, or?
Not that we know of, but they do ship from other areas. Some come through, you know, so if you're
That's right.
shipping and you want to go in through to northern Michigan, some of that does come through. So they're trying to build a business as well.
Go ahead, Ron.
The other thing you said, Bill, the federal are on board with this.
Well, that's what they
it
told
were,
them, okay?
Yeah, and it was the provincial that didn't go along with it,
That's
it's
right.
three-part funding.
That's right.
So now with the new leader in Ontario.
It improves
and
the
the
possibility of
optimism
that.
we're having, It is a possibility.
Yeah.
There's some notion that some of this money might be spent on that Agawam Canyon run?
No, that's a different portion.
Different portion?
Yeah, that's CNN now. Or
that's
a portion of the Algoma Railway.
Right, okay.
When you were saying the chromite plant or whatever, or Ring of Fire, didn't Sudbury get turned down as a smelter area?
No, they're looking for a couple of smelters, and actually Sudbury has a good
Sudbury's
possibility
out
of
there
getting a
running.
nickel refinery.
Sudbury is out of the running.
Yeah,
There's
they
only the
came
Sioux
out
and
about
Thunder
2
Bay
years
left.
ago.
Okay, yeah.
So it's only the Sioux and, there was another place.
Yeah, there was Sudbury and
The Sioux
Timmins
still-
were dumped, and
The Sioux is still in as far as I
the
know.
Sioux and Thunder Bay are the two
That
that
would
are
bring more
contending.
rail traffic
It would.
into there, and it could
Even if
very
it's
well
transit
improve.
rail, it doesn't matter.
It could
It's still there.
improve us.
Okay,
So,
go ahead.
So, Bill, did you want us to pass this resolution now?
I think we
Then
should,
we'll go to
yeah.
camera and discuss the.
Yeah, Yeah, what they're asking for is a resolution from all the communities, okay, and so we've asked, and they're trying to put together the package for the visit to AMO, so they're looking for this stuff on a timely basis. That's why I didn't want to wait till
No.
another couple of weeks, so they have that information.
Go ahead,
Just a
Ken.
meeting at that time, Bill, in August, the 20th, or what is that the culmination of this?
Well, that's where they're gonna put the presentations in Ottawa, and they're hoping, Sue already has a time and a date for the presentation with AMO, with the province, but they're working on something with the federal government as well.
Okay, so, moved by Councillor Ray Dufour, second by Councillor Ron Dupassy, be it resolved that whereas the growth plan for Northern Ontario and the municipality of Westmount will recognize the importance of having sustainable, cost-competitive, multimodal transportation infrastructure, And whereas Genesee and Wyoming Canada, Inc. is a short line railway holding company that owns or maintains interest in 9 railways throughout Canada, including Huron Central Railway, which operates a freight service over 280 kilometers of railway between Sault Ste. Marie and Sudbury, leased from Canadian Pacific Railways. And whereas the short line rail service lowers costs for manufacturing customers, reduces environmental impacts, decreases the cost of road maintenance, and provides for safer roads by reducing the level of truck traffic east of Sault Ste. Marie. And whereas the HCR has recently advised that it has insufficient freight volumes to generate revenue necessary for sustainable capital investments to maintain and rehabilitate the rail line. And whereas in 2009, HCR advised that due to insufficient revenue to maintain and rehabilitate the railway, it would be ceasing its short line railway operations, and CPR, the railway's owner, advised it would be commencing the rail abandonment process pursuant to federal regulations. And whereas over the course of 2009 and 2010, HCR worked in partnership with affected municipalities and industries in the region to secure $33 million in federal provincial infrastructure funding and completed critical rehabilitation of the railway. And whereas HCR presented a request seeking support to secure necessary government funding to undertake additional rehabilitation and maintenance of this short line railway infrastructure to maintain this vital transportation service, now therefore be it resolved that Council for the Town of Espanola supports HCR's efforts to secure the funding necessary to enable the railway between Sault Ste. Marie and the CPR connection in Sudbury to continue to provide a short line freight service.
Questions or comments on this one? Councilor Ray?
Did you say ACR or HCR?
HCR.
Okay.
Yeah, Huron Central Railway.
Okay, good.
Anyone else? All in favor? Carried.
So, Bill advised that, Councillor Foster advised that there's a portion of the meeting that he'd like to share with council that will be in camera. So we have motions.
Be it resolved that under the authority of section 26.1.3 of bylaw number 2062/08, council goes into an in-camera session for the purpose stated in the section 239.2 of the Municipal Act. Trade secret or technical, scientific, technical, commercial, financial, or labor relations information supplied in confidence to the municipality or local board, which if disclosed could reasonably be expected to prejudice significantly the competitive position or interfere significantly with the contractual or other negotiations of a person, group of persons, or organization. All in favor? Carried.